Declan Fallon here with the rest of the Fallon family to congratulate Cameron Medicals on your opening. Declan, who was at the forefront of the group, led the rest of his family up to Cameron Medicals and shook Dustin, Lana, and Beau's hands. When the crowd heard that the man was Declan Fallon, an uproar broke out again. What? Even the Fallon family is here. They are one of the four ancient houses. Am I seeing things? My goodness. One of the four ancient houses actually turned up for the launch of a small medical company. What is going on? The crowd buzzed with discussion and astonishment. The Fallon family was on a whole other level than the Langford family. They were a distinguished family that was at the peak of Dragon Marsh. Numerous warriors came from the family, and they held a lot of power in the imperial court. Their influence in the military sector was unrivaled. Why would such a prominent family come and congratulate the Cameron family on the launch of their company? It was unimaginable. The F. Fallon family. How is it possible? Eleanor and the rest of the Welch and Swanson families stood, frozen on the spot like they'd been struck by lightning. They stared with eyes wide in disbelief. Wasn't the convoy their backup? Why did they suddenly become the Cameron family's backup? And most importantly, how did a second-tier family manage to get the Fallon family to back them up? Before they even got over the shock of seeing the Fallons, another convoy of luxury cars came around the corner. This time, they did not go the wrong way. They headed straight for Cameron Medicals and pulled up in front of the building. As the doors opened, Natasha came down from the car wearing a stunning red dress, and behind her was a group of rich and influential men. The Ballard family here to congratulate you on the launch of your company. As a show of support, I'd like to place a $10 billion order for Do Bomb, Natasha said with a smile. A ruckus broke out among the crowd. Oh my God! It's not just the Fallons. Now even the Ballards, another one of the four ancient houses, are here. Am I dreaming? Who exactly is it that managed to get two of the four ancient houses to show up at the same time? How shocking! This is getting exciting. The crowd clamored excitedly. To have the Fallons show up was impressive in itself. But now, even the Ballards had come to show their support. Their influence was unfathomable. Cameron Medicals had undoubtedly won the bet. There was no way the Welch and Swanson families could turn the tables at this point. Eleanor's legs gave way, and she fell to the ground. Her face was ashen. She was in utter despair. At that moment, not only Eleanor, but everyone from the Welch and Swanson families were shocked. Never in their dreams had they expected things to turn out this way. They had a chance at winning the bet had it just been the Langfords. But now, there were even two ancient houses involved. No matter their tricks or abilities, they were all rendered useless. After all, there was a stark difference between wealthy families and ancient houses. They were on entirely different levels. Wealthy families were just rich, but ancient houses wielded power and influence. The rich were nothing compared to the powerful and influential. It would not be an exaggeration to say that ancient houses could wipe out any wealthy family within a night if they wished. That was how different the wealthy families and ancient houses were. The Langfords, the Fallons, and the Ballards. How could this be? What on earth has happened? Ezra gaped in terror. He simply could not comprehend how an insignificant company like Cameron Medicals could get the support of ancient houses. Quick, just admit defeat immediately, or we might end up in even more trouble than we already are. Alistair was quick to recover from the shock. Now that two ancient houses had shown up, he understood the severity of the situation. Though he did not know how Cameron Medicals did it, it was clear as day that Rejuvenate Pharmaceuticals had lost the bet. If they held out to the end, it would not benefit them and might even anger the two ancient families. And if that happened, neither the Welch nor the Swanson family would make it. In the end, under Alistair's urges, Eleanor and Ezra had no choice but to admit defeat. We've lost this time round. We admit our defeat. From now on, we shall stop all sales of Rejuvenate, and the company shall be dissolved shortly. Are you satisfied now? Eleanor spat through gritted teeth, looking resentful. She might have lost, but she was unresigned to the defeat. From how she saw it, victory should have been hers had the two ancient families not gotten themselves involved. Ms. Welch, it's still long before the day ends. Isn't it a bit too early to admit defeat now? Why don't you hold out a little longer? Lana asked with a slight hint of a smile. HMPH, you just got lucky, that's all. What's there to be proud of? I'll get back at you. With that said, Eleanor turned and stormed off angrily. Let's go, Alistair gestured to his men, and they all left. Within just minutes, everyone from the Welch and Swanson families had left. Their company, which had just opened, was shut down quickly. All the rich and famous people who had turned up to support Rejuvenate Pharmaceuticals left as well. Ultimately, it was Cameron Medicals that won the bet. However, things did not end there. After the Lanford, the Fallon, and the Ballard families turned up, many more prominent figures got the news and showed up to congratulate the Camerons too. They also placed huge orders for Du Bomb. Cameron Medicals was jam-packed with people for a moment, and the place was lively. Influential individuals from various sectors and wealthy figures kept showing up. Luxury cars lined down the whole road. Du Bomb spread like wildfire, and by the end of the day, the whole of Oakvale knew about it. The Welch family and the Swanson family's Rejuvenate was sorely defeated. Customers who had placed orders for it promptly chose to get a refund, resulting in heavy losses for them. In order to promote their product, they invested massive amounts of funds and even worked overtime to ensure steady production. The company was closed even before the Welch and Swanson families could profit from it. In addition to having a warehouse full of the ointment, the money invested had also gone down the drain because they couldn't sell it. Suddenly, the Welch and Swanson families were in deep waters. On the other hand, the Cameron family was in a completely different situation. They had just joined the elite social rank right away because of the support shown by the two ancient houses. Not only were they making money, but they had towered above the most influential families in the city in terms of networking. If this continued, they'd finally be able to join the rank of influential families within 3 months. By that time, Oakville would have 9 great families. It was nighttime in the Welch family meeting room. Alistair, the leader of the Welch family, and Barry Swanson, the leader of the Swanson family, were in a discussion. Only a few other core members, like Eleanor and Ezra, were also present. Alistair, what actually happened? You promised that as long as the Swanson family joined this venture, we'd make a lot of money together. Look at us now. The Swanson family has invested a lot of money, and the company is already a flop when it has just started. Most importantly, the clients who have placed their orders with us are asking for a refund. If this continues, the Swanson family will face a substantial loss. Barry was complaining obnoxiously. If he had not listened to Alistair and invested heavily in Rejuvenate, the Swanson family wouldn't be in this situation. It should be made known that the cost of producing Rejuvenate was very high. They were very confident as they received many purchase orders and didn't mind spending a huge fortune to gather the required herbs to produce this ointment. They had initially wanted to make a lot of money from this venture. They had no idea they would be losing so much money that it'd eat into their savings. Everyone in the family was full of complaints. Barry, I know you're very worried, but please try to calm down. Alistair sighed softly. If the Swanson family has sustained a huge loss, do you think we, the Welch family, are better off? We're in the same boat. We're in this together, and we'll have to weather this storm hand in hand. It might seem like it, but don't you think you're a little too incompetent? You can't even take on the Cameron family, and you're risking your family's fortune and reputation with it, Barry said while shaking his head. Barry, this is just a small mishap. We would have won if the ancient houses didn't get involved, Alistair replied. What? The ancient houses? What's going on? Barry was taken aback. Let me tell you what happened from the beginning. Alistair explained what happened without missing out on any details. Barry frowned after he heard the full story. With a stern expression, he said, "That's weird. With their influence, why would the ancient houses help the ordinary Cameron family? Dad, to our knowledge, I think the Dawson family is related to this." Ezra spoke up suddenly. The Dawson family may be influential, but to have support from the Fallon and Ballard families, I don't think they're capable of that. Barry was a little doubtful. The background of the 8 great families was not a secret. The Langford family was the most powerful and were in a league of their own. The Dawsons would come after them. On their own, they were more powerful than the Welch or Swanson family. However, it was unlikely that the Dawsons had connections to the ancient houses. Could it be that the Dawson family bought over the ancient houses with a handsome sum of money? Ezra speculated. What do you think, Alistair? Instead of replying to Ezra's speculation, Barry turned to look at Alistair. I find this weird as well. But other than the Dawsons, I couldn't think of anyone else. Alistair shook his head. The Camerons, led by Lana, were just a mediocre family at best. They would never have the chance to rub shoulders with the ancient houses, much less ask for favors from them. The Dawson family, led by Bo Dawson, who enjoyed a high social standing, was the biggest shareholder. Even though it was a long shot, that was still a possibility. As for Dustin Reese, he decided to ignore him as he was just a nobody. He wouldn't even have the chance to serve the ancient houses as a housekeeper. How could he possibly hold such influence? That's enough. There's no point in discussing all these now. Let's redirect our focus on finding a way out of the current situation. Joanne, who had remained silent all this while, suddenly spoke up. She was decisive, swift, and wouldn't give up easily. She would find ways to regain their losses. Obviously, we can no longer sell Rejuvenate, as the ancient houses have spoken. Barry sighed as he looked up and said, Alistair, you are always full of ideas. Do you have any ideas how we can recoup some of our losses? This is too little time for me to think of anything. Alistair looked helpless. If he had any ideas, he wouldn't be worrying right now. Dad, I might have an idea. Eleanor suddenly had a thought and spoke up. Really? What is it? Tell me. Alistair was immediately intrigued. Everyone else turned to look at her and was ready to listen to her idea. Dad, we got the formula for Rejuvenate from Dustin. Do you think he may have other similar formulas? Eleanor said as she narrowed her eyes. Alistair and Joanne glanced at each other and understood what their daughter meant. However, they didn't reveal her true intentions because it was quite unsettling. Eleanor, did you mean to kidnap Dustin and force him to give up all his formulas? Ezra speculated cautiously. That's right. Eleanor nodded. Dustin is a man with many secrets. I am confident that we'll be pleasantly surprised when we kidnap him and put him through the ringer. Haha, that's a good idea. Barry's eyes lit up when he heard that. We only promised not to produce and sell Rejuvenate. It wasn't explicitly mentioned that we couldn't sell other medicine. If there's really something unique, we can cover our losses and profit from it as well. That's right. Alistair nodded his head and smiled. There must be more than one. Dustin probably has other unique formulas. Dustin kept to himself when he did business with the Welch family. This was enough to prove that he knew more than he revealed. Eleanor, but Dustin is with the Dawson family now. Don't you think it's risky if we harm him now? Ezra thought out loud. The Dawsons and the Camerons were growing popular. Now with the support of 2 ancient houses, Dustin was quite close to Bo and Lana now. If they kidnapped him, they might get themselves in trouble. 1. No pain, no gain. If we could recoup our losses and emerge victorious, what's a little risk? Eleanor said nonchalantly. Besides, Dustin is just a pawn. He's probably of no value to them anymore. Why would the Dawsons and the Camerons care about his life and death? Well, Ezra furrowed his brows and thought long and hard because he felt indecisive. Ezra, are you scared? Have you turned into a coward? Eleanor sounded upset as she continued. You used to be the smartest and the bravest. You were relentless. Why are you acting so different today? This is quite a big deal. It's not wrong to be more careful. Ezra smiled sheepishly. Fuck, he'd always be the first one to do anything. All of them would just stay behind to cheer him on. Of course, they wouldn't understand how dangerous it'd get. He'd be the first to go down if anything went wrong. Don't worry. Ezra, this won't be dangerous at all, Eleanor said with a serious expression. As long as we do this quietly and leave no trace, no one will know it's us. Remember, there's an expert on our side. Nothing will go wrong when we ask him for assistance. Ezra, he's just a nobody. You don't have to worry at all. You have the support of two great families. Just go ahead and do it your way. I'll take care of it if something goes wrong. Alistair patted his chest and promised. Their words instantly boosted Ezra's confidence. He replied bravely, "All right, I'll do my best and personally kidnap Dustin." Meanwhile, in a luxurious private suite in Regal Court, Dustin, Lana, Beau, and others gathered around the table to drink and chit-chat. Their new company had just launched, and they had already profited quite a lot. It was the perfect end to their day. They decided to celebrate their success at the Regal Court after a busy day. Ha ha ha, what an amazing day. That bitch couple, Ezra and Eleanor, finally failed for once. I can't help but laugh whenever I remember their faces when they lost. Beau laughed loudly with his glass raised. One. He always disliked Eleanor and Ezra. They even went to threaten his sister at her place a few days ago. He finally got his revenge today. This is all thanks to Mr. Dawson's social network. You managed to invite the Fallon family and the Ballard family today. If not, we wouldn't be this successful. Lana raised her glass with a smile. Hold on, Beau was taken aback and frantically said. I thought the Camerons invited the ancient houses. How is the Dawson family involved? What? Lana's face froze. Mr. Dawson, are you joking? We, the Camerons, are just a mediocre family. How would we ever have the opportunity to get support from the ancient houses? The problem is, the Dawsons would never have the chance as well. Beau commented with a curious expression. He might have used his social connection to gather support from other influential families, but the Fallons and the Ballards were beyond him. To be honest, he was incapable of doing so. It didn't matter if his father had offered to help. The chance of success was slim. The difference between a great family and an ancient house was just too huge. If it was neither of us, who could it be? Lana looked confused. She had assumed that the Dawsons paid the ancient houses a handsome amount of money to get their support. From the looks of it now, it wasn't so. Dustin, could it have been you? Beau suddenly turned to look at Dustin at that thought, his gaze full of disbelief. Me, Dustin chuckled and replied ambiguously, if even you couldn't do it, how could I, a poor man, achieve the impossible? That's right, Beau nodded thoughtfully. Only the royalty and the dukes can get the support of the ancient houses. That's fine. Let's not get caught up in these tiny details. It's also possible that the ancient houses saw the potential in Dubom and decided to promote it. Lana looked at Dustin carefully before changing the topic. She had a feeling that Dustin was a person with many secrets. However, now was not the time to find out about his secrets. All right, let's drink up. Beau got tired of thinking. He raised his glass and started chugging down. Soon, they had finished a bottle of red wine. Waiter, please get us 2 more bottles of your best red wine. Beau shouted toward the door. A few moments later, a waitress walked with 2 bottles of red wine, her head lowered. Here, let's drink. Beau poured the wine into 3 glasses and got ready to chug it all down after clinking glasses. However, Dustin raised his hand to stop him as Beau was about to drink. Something's fishy about the wine. Don't drink it. What? Looking at the palm covering the opening of the glass, Beau was shocked. Fishy? How so? He sniffed the wine and said confusedly, the wine has a full-bodied fragrance and a lasting after smell. It's fine. The wine on its own is fine, but there is something else in it. If you drink it, you'll die. Dustin replied seriously. Is the wine poisoned? Beau frowned and put down his glass of wine slowly. He turned to gaze at his bodyguards and asked coldly, "What's going on?" It was protocol that his wine would be tested for poison before it was served to him. It'd only be brought before Beau if it was deemed safe. "Mr. Dawson, we tested the wine. There was no poison in it." The bodyguards immediately shook their heads to confirm that the wine hadn't been poisoned. "I saw it with my own eyes." The test was negative, Allura, the female grandmother, said calmly. "Dustin, could you have made a mistake?" Beau thought it was weird. He could choose not to trust his bodyguards, but he would never doubt Allura. They grew up together and had been through life and death situations. There was no secret between them. You were testing for poison, but the substance in the wine isn't poison. Dustin took out a needle as he spoke and pricked his finger lightly. He then squeezed out a drop of blood and let it drip into the glass of wine. As soon as the blood dripped into the wine, something blood-curdling happened. The wine started bubbling when the drop of blood fell into it. Suddenly, there were parasitic worms started wriggling and squirming as they fought to devour Dustin's drop of blood. These parasitic worms were transparent and tiny. If they were not moving, they could not be detected by the naked eye. However, if there was blood, the parasitic worms would be attracted to it and become aggressive as they fought to feed on fresh blood. Everyone had goosebumps as they looked at the swarming parasitic worms in the glass. What is this?" Beau was so scared that his eyes started twitching as he staggered backward. The small glass of wine actually contained so many parasitic worms. If they had drunk it, they would have been eaten alive from the inside. "This is the zombie worm, one of the many venomous curses. Mystic artists will cultivate these worms using corpses," Dustin explained casually. "Zombie worms feed on fresh blood. Once they get into a human body, they will continuously reproduce as they devour human flesh and blood. If the person wasn't treated with an antidote, the person who has been cursed will die a slow death." Fuck, this is such a brutal method. Who would be this cruel? How could they use this curse on another person? Beau was shocked and angry. He had always been cautious. Nevertheless, there were still things like this curse that he could never prevent. It was good that we found out in time. If not, it would have been a mess. Lana also looked terrified. The zombie worms could not be detected using a normal test. They would die without knowing the reason if they had consumed without realizing it. Allura suddenly pulled a long sword from the sheath around her waist and immediately held the blade against the waitress' neck. She shouted, "Tell me, who's behind this?" No, it wasn't me. I don't know anything about this." The waitress was so scared that she shivered and fell to the floor. She looked terrified. "You served the wine. Hence, you're the biggest suspect. You should just be honest. If not, then prepare to die." Allura glared at the waitress. She had put Beau in danger due to her invigilance. If Dustin hadn't noticed it, she could not have redeemed herself if anything happened. I really don't know. I'm just a waitress, and I didn't do anything." The waitress was so startled that she started crying. Her tears fell like rain. "Take her away for interrogation," Allura ordered. With a wave of her hand, two of her subordinates dragged the waitress away. They couldn't let any suspect escape in a situation like this. "Both of you, check if there was any stranger in the kitchen tonight with the kitchen staff. As for the both of you, check the surveillance footage. Make sure you check every single person who came into the restaurant tonight." Allura wasted no time in giving out orders. Beau's bodyguards immediately did as they were told. "Mr. Dawson, all this was my mistake. I almost caused a disaster. I'll gladly accept any punishment." Allura apologized with a bow. "It wasn't your fault. Who would have expected such a wicked method?" Beau appeared stern. "Have you upset anyone lately?" Lana asked suddenly. "No one that I can think of." Beau shook his head. "I rarely go out in public, so I haven't had the chance to upset anyone." Beau's eyes suddenly twitched as he uttered, "Hold on." Could it be the Welch and Swanson families? We caused them a substantial loss today, and they're upset about it. Could this be their attempt at revenge? That's possible. Lana nodded in agreement. Judging from Eleanor and Ezra's personalities, they would never give up easily, especially after suffering a huge loss. She just didn't think that it would come this soon. What do you think, Dustin? Bo turned to look at him and asked, what else is there to think about? Other than the Welch and Swanson families who are in cahoots, I couldn't think of anyone else who is this petty. Dustin gave a non-committal comment. Fuck, these animals are really behind this. Bo slammed the table angrily, shouting, Alara, gather our people. I'm going to confront them now. There's no need to rush. Dustin raised his hand to stop them. If you confront them openly, they would never admit to it. Do you really want to go to war with the Welch and Swanson families? What should I do then? I don't want to let this slide easily. Bo was pissed. He was not one to tolerate nonsense. After all, an eye for an eye. Of course not, Dustin replied calmly. If they prefer to stay in the dark, then we shall meet them there. Really, what do you have in mind? Bo was immediately intrigued. The mystic arts were much more terrifying than normal assassination attempts. It was not something that could be prevented. The only way was to find the culprit as soon as possible to end the curse. If my guess is right, the person who cast this spell should have a mother, worm whose only purpose is to reproduce. There's a unique bond between the person casting the spell and the mother worm. I can use the zombie worm to locate the mother worm. With that, I'll be able to find the mastermind, Dustin commented calmly. All right, we'll do it this way then. Bo slapped the table. Dustin, feel free to let me know whenever you need help. You don't have to do anything. You should just go home and sleep, Dustin replied. What? Sleep? Bo was caught off guard and confused. Lana and Alara looked at each other, perplexed. The enemy is in the dark, and we're in the light. You tip them off if you show any reaction toward it. Just let me deal with this. This curse was meant for me anyway. As he finished his sentence, Dustin took a glass filled with zombie worms and chugged it immediately. The night had grown darker on the outskirts of South City. Inside an old and rustic mansion, Ezra paced restlessly in the living room with his hands clasped behind his back, clearly anxious. To confront Dustin and his gang, he had enlisted a master from the Mystic Arts Order, someone even more powerful than Theodore. Although slightly eccentric and unpredictable, this man had a sadistic side, as seen by the three unfortunate women who had left his presence battered and on the verge of death. Ezra didn't tend to show unnecessary sympathy, but appeasing this man with a twisted personality proved to be quite a challenge. The threat to his life loomed large if he accidentally provoked him. The door squeaked open, revealing a thin figure in a black robe with a satisfied grin. In the adjoining room, there was a horrifying scene. A woman bound and blooded, her life cruelly taken from her. Ezra turned away in shock. The master, Caspian Yuletide, sauntered out, visibly content. Ira cautiously approached and asked, Sir Yuletide, are you satisfied with the results? Caspian replied, taking a seat leisurely, not bad at all. These three individuals met my expectations. Tonight has been quite enjoyable, and you played your role well. Ezra quickly poured a cup of tea for Caspian. With a forced smile, he said, Sir Yuletide, about the favor I requested from you, any progress? Caspian responded nonchalantly, I've assigned my disciples to the task, and it should be resolved soon. Ezra breathed a sigh of relief. That's great to hear. Caspian added casually, oh, by the way, we have a high-ranking member from the Mystic Arts Order visiting Oakvale soon. Prepare in advance and find suitable accommodations for this individual. If all goes well, your family will receive the protection of the Mystic Arts Order. IT. Ezra exclaimed with joy. That's fantastic. Thank you, Sir Yuletide. The Mystic Arts Order was one of the three major forces in the martial world. Alongside the Sword Union and the Celestial Alliance, they had many skilled experts. and their influence was so significant that they had direct access to the king. Even the four ancient houses of Oakville were nothing to the Mystic Arts Order. If the Swanson family could get their protection, they would have a powerful ally on their side. Caspian cautioned, "Don't get too excited. This individual has quite a temper. You better be careful when serving them. If you provoke them, not even God can save you." Ezra nodded earnestly. "Understood. We'll ensure this person is pleased and content, no matter the cost." Caspian nodded in approval. "Good. You better do well." As they chatted, the door creaked open again, and a shadowy figure entered, carrying a bundle that dripped dark red droplets with every step. Ezra tensed at the sight. Caspian sipped his tea, unfazed by the unfolding events. "No need to be alarmed. It should be my disciple returning." With a thud, the figure tossed the bundled package into the room. The bundle had unfurled, revealing a spherical object that rolled out a severed human head. Holy crap! Ezra jumped back, his face turning pale. To his shock, the decapitated head belonged to one of Caspian's disciples. "What?" Caspian's face darkened, his gaze turning cold. "Who the hell are you? How dare you kill my disciple? You've got some nerve." "So, you're the sicko who spiked our drinks with those zombie worms." A figure emerged from the shadows, stopping at the living room doorway. The dim light exposed Dustin's face, surprising Ezra. "Dustin, what are you doing here? You guys suck at hiding your tracks." "So now I'm here to settle the score," Dustin said nonchalantly. "Settle the score? Who do you think you are? Acting all tough in front of Sir Yuletide. You're digging your own grave." Ezra spat and quickly hid behind Caspian. "Sir Yuletide, this bastard here is the one I want to deal with. You killed my disciple, and now you dare to seek revenge. You truly don't know your own limits." Caspian sneered. "Do you know my limits?" Dustin chuckled. "Do you know why I dared to show up here? What, do you have reinforcements?" Caspian scanned the surroundings. "No reinforcements. One person is enough to deal with the likes of you," Dustin said nonchalantly.